Keep this photograph safe, Sarah had whispered. The man standing beside me will be on your flight. He will be sitting near the front. If you recognize him, show the picture to a flight attendant. Do not approach him by yourself. 8-year-old Owen Parker had repeated those instructions until they no longer sounded like his mother's voice. They sounded like the low hum beneath his sneakers. Constant, unavoidable. Before Sarah died, her attorney, Helen Brooks, contacted Jonathan Reed's office about delivering a sealed personal document in Boston. Through that arrangement, Helen learned which Reed aviation flight Jonathan was scheduled to take. She bought Owen a seat on the same route, escorted him to the Denver gate, and placed the blue, unaccompanied minor lanyard around his neck. Aunt Margaret would meet him in Boston. Owen knew none of the adult decisions behind the journey. He only knew that his mother had asked him to carry one faded photograph and find the man standing beside her. Flight 614 had been in the air for 40 minutes. Morning light rested across the windows, and the steady engine noise had faded into the background. Owen had not released the photograph once. Not when Helen hugged him at the gate. Not when Emily Carter showed him where to place his backpack. Not when Denver disappeared beneath a pale layer of clouds. The photograph stayed between his palms inside a clear plastic sleeve worn cloudy at the edges. He held it because it was the last object Sarah had placed in his hands. To Owen, it was not a clue, a warning, or a company secret. It was simply the last piece of her he could still touch. The photograph showed Sarah beside a younger man near a small white aircraft. She was smiling faintly. The man wore a dark flight jacket and a metal pin shaped like a broken wing. Owen knew the woman was his mother. He knew the man was someone she had once trusted. Emily noticed Owen while collecting empty cups from the row behind him. She had been a flight attendant for 9 years, long enough to recognize the difference between a quiet child and a worried one. Quiet children watched movies, asked for snacks, or counted clouds. Worried children watched people. Owen had looked toward the first-class curtain 12 times since takeoff. Each time, his fingers tightened around the photograph. Emily secured her service card and returned to his seat. "Hello, Owen," she said softly. "How are you doing?" His brown eyes rose slowly. They were too serious for an 8-year-old. "I am all right, ma'am. Would you like water or a snack?" "No, thank you." Emily noticed his apple juice was still unopened. "Are you waiting for someone?" Owen glanced toward the front, then back at the picture. Emily followed his eyes but did not press him. She lowered herself beside the aisle seat. "You can tell me if something is worrying you. My job is to help." Owen studied her face, then slowly turned the photograph toward her. The woman's face was faded but kind. The man looked younger, yet Emily recognized the strong jaw, the mark near his left eyebrow, and the expression she had seen in company videos. "Is that your mother?" Owen nodded. "She died 3 weeks ago." Emily's breath caught. She rested one hand against the armrest. "I am sorry, Owen." He looked down. "She said the man in the picture would be on this airplane. Did she tell you his name?" "No. She said I would recognize the broken wing." Owen turned the photograph over. On the back were Helen Brooks's name, a telephone number, and one sentence. "Jonathan will understand." "What did your mother tell you to do?" "Show it to a flight attendant. Do not go to him alone." At that moment, the first-class curtain opened, and Owen whispered, "That is him." Emily turned back to Owen before the man from seat 2A could notice them watching him. She shifted slightly, placing herself between the boy and the aisle. "Keep the photograph with you," she said softly. "You did exactly what your mother asked. Let me handle the next part." Owen pressed the plastic sleeve against his chest. Jonathan Reed adjusted his jacket, exchanged a few words with the lead flight attendant, then disappeared behind the first-class curtain. Only after he was gone did Emily sit in the empty seat across the aisle. "Who will meet you in Boston?" she asked. "My Aunt Margaret." "Does she know about the man in the photograph?" Owen shook his head. "Mom told her to meet me at the gate. She told me something different." "What did she tell you?" "That the man would be sitting near the front. She said I might recognize him by the broken wing pin." Emily glanced toward the curtain. "Did she tell you his name?" "No, ma'am. She said the flight attendant would know what to do." Owen turned the photograph over. Helen Brooks's name and telephone number were written on the back. Beneath them were the words "Jonathan will understand." "Helen brought you to the airport, correct?" Owen nodded. "She was my mother's lawyer." "Did she explain what Jonathan would understand?" "No. She said that part was for adults." Emily studied him. Sarah had not asked her son to carry records, accusations, or secrets. She had asked him to carry a photograph. Nothing more. Did Helen give you anything else? Owen reached into his backpack and removed a small sealed envelope. His name was written across the front in Sarah's careful handwriting. "This is from Mom," he said. "Helen said I can open it whenever I am ready. Do you want to open it now?" Owen held the envelope with both hands, but did not break the seal. "Not yet. That is all right. If I open it," he whispered, "there will not be anything left that she has not already said." The answer landed quietly, but Emily felt it in her chest. She had comforted passengers through missed funerals, sudden illnesses, and long flights home after difficult news. Yet nothing had prepared her for the careful sadness of an 8-year-old protecting the last unopened words from his mother. She did not promise that everything would be fine. She did not promise that Jonathan would be kind. Instead, she said, "You can wait until you feel ready. No one gets to decide that for you." Owen returned the envelope to his backpack and zipped it closed. "Miss Emily?" "Yes." "Do you think he knows who I am?" Emily looked forward. She knew the man in seat 2A was Jonathan Reed, founder of Reed Aviation. "I do not think he knows yet," she said. "But your mother wanted him to understand." "What happens now?" "I speak with the lead attendant. Then we call Helen. No one questions you until your aunt knows." Jonathan Reed had spent most of his life believing control was the difference between success and disaster. He controlled schedules, negotiations, aircraft orders, public statements, and even the temperature of every conference room he entered. Seated in first class, he appeared untouched by uncertainty. His charcoal suit remained smooth. His coffee rested beside a leather folder marked confidential. Inside was the announcement he planned to make in Boston. Reed Aviation would acquire a regional carrier and become one of the nation's largest privately held airlines. Reporters were already gathering. Investors had begun calling before sunrise. Jonathan should have been reviewing numbers. Instead, he kept turning the broken wing pin attached to his watch strap. He had worn it for nearly 9 years without explaining why. Most people assumed it was an old company symbol. It was not. Sarah Parker had given it to him on the morning of Flight 127, when Reed Aviation was still small enough for Jonathan to know every pilot, mechanic, and engineer by name. Sarah had been one of the company's brightest engineers. She noticed details others dismissed. A missing signature, a measurement that did not match, a supplier record filed under the wrong date. She once told Jonathan that disasters rarely began with one dramatic mistake. They began with small compromises powerful people decided were easier not to see. Before Flight 127, Sarah asked him to delay a post-maintenance validation flight. A component supplied by an outside contractor had passed its paperwork review, but she believed the manufacturing records had been altered. Jonathan trusted her enough to ask questions. Charles Whitman convinced him to wait for an internal investigation. By the next morning, Sarah's report had disappeared from the active system. Confidential files had been copied under her employee credentials. A resignation letter appeared on Jonathan's desk. Charles presented everything with the calm certainty of a man who had already decided what the truth should look like. Jonathan defended Sarah at first. Then more evidence arrived. Access records, financial, transfers, copies of private engineering files. Every document pointed toward her. Every attempt to reach her failed. Within days, she was gone. Jonathan never saw her again. The broken wing pin remained. So did the doubt he refused to name. Movement near the first-class curtain pulled him back to the present. Emily Carter was speaking quietly with the lead flight attendant. Her expression made him look twice. She glanced toward him, then toward economy. The lead attendant checked the passenger manifest and gave Emily a small nod. Charles sat across the aisle, reading from his tablet. He appeared absorbed in a financial report, but Jonathan noticed that his eyes had stopped moving. Emily approached. Her expression was respectful but careful. "Mr. Reed, may I ask you a private question?" Jonathan closed the folder. "Of course." Emily glanced once toward Charles. "Did you know a woman named Sarah Parker?" Jonathan's hand stopped against the pin. "Why are you asking me that?" "There is a passenger on board carrying something that belonged to her." The color left Jonathan's face. "What passenger?" Charles lowered his tablet. "This sounds personal. Perhaps it should wait until after landing." Emily looked at him. "I have not said what the matter is." Charles smiled politely. "Then there is no reason to disturb Mr. Reed before an important announcement." Jonathan turned toward him. "You recognized her name?" Everyone who worked at Reed Aviation 9 years ago recognized Sarah Parker's name. That was not my question. The silence sharpened. Emily had spent years watching people reveal themselves in small ways. A hand tightening, a glance arriving too quickly, an answer given before anyone asked. Charles had done all three. Jonathan looked back at her. What is the passenger carrying? A faded photograph. Sarah is standing beside you in it. Jonathan's eyes dropped to the pin. Where is the passenger? Safe in economy. He is 8 years old and traveling under the airline's unaccompanied minor service. Jonathan looked toward the curtain. Charles did not. He looked at Emily. That was when she understood that one man feared who waited behind the curtain, while the other feared what the photograph still remembered. Emily returned to row 14, and Owen searched her face for an answer. She sat across the aisle and lowered her voice. The man in the photograph is Jonathan Reed, she said. He knows your mother's name. Owen looked toward first class. Does he know who I am? Not yet. Emily paused. Before I tell him anything else, I need your permission to show him the photograph. Owen looked down at the cloudy plastic sleeve. Handing it over felt like releasing the last solid piece of his mother. Will you bring it back? He asked. Yes. It belongs to you. Will you stay where I can see you? I will ask the lead flight attendant to remain nearby. I will not let anyone take it. Owen considered this, then placed the sleeve in her hands. Mom said Jonathan would understand. Then I will give him the chance. Emily carried the photograph toward first class. Before crossing the curtain, she examined it beneath a reading light. Sarah stood beside a younger Jonathan near a small white aircraft. The broken wing pin was fixed to his jacket. One of Sarah's hands rested beside the identification plate she had shown him only minutes earlier, the plate that did not match the supplier records. Charles Whitman stood behind them, younger but unmistakable. He was not looking at the camera. He was watching Sarah. Emily did not try to interpret it. Whatever the numbers meant, they belonged to the adults connected to the photograph. She turned it over. Helen Brooks's name, telephone number, and Sarah's message remained clear. Jonathan will understand. Emily stepped into first class. Jonathan sat with his leather folder closed, while Charles held an untouched tablet across the aisle. Both men looked up when they saw the photograph. The passenger gave me permission to show you this, Emily said. He asked me to bring it back. Jonathan reached for the sleeve, then stopped. May I? Emily nodded and placed it in his hands. His controlled expression disappeared. For several seconds, he saw only Sarah. His thumb moved toward the edge but did not touch her image. When was this taken? Emily asked. The morning before Flight 127. Jonathan said. Sarah gave me the pin that day. Charles leaned forward. There were many photographs taken during that program. Jonathan looked at him. I do not remember asking you. Charles's attention shifted to the open maintenance panel. The movement lasted less than a second, but Emily saw it. Where did the boy get this? Charles asked. From his mother. Who was the boy? That information is not yours to demand. Charles's expression tightened. If Sarah sent him here to create a scene before the Boston announcement, Jonathan needs to know. Jonathan continued staring at the photograph. She is dead, Emily said. The words stopped both men. Jonathan lifted his eyes. When, 3 weeks ago, the silence removed every trace of business from the cabin. Jonathan turned the photograph over and read Helen's name. Charles saw the number and stood too quickly. Give that back to the child. Emily did not move. A moment ago, you wanted to know where it came from. Jonathan looked toward the curtain. What is the child's name? Owen Parker. Charles looked away first. Emily understood why. Jonathan continued staring at the name on the back of the photograph. Owen Parker. The last name was common, yet the boy was 8. Sarah had disappeared nearly 9 years earlier, and Emily had described eyes that looked too much like hers. Jonathan placed the photograph carefully on his closed folder. I need to speak with him, he said. Emily remained beside the aisle. Only if Owen agrees. He is traveling under our unaccompanied minor service, and until his aunt receives him in Boston, the airline is responsible for his care. No one will question him, pressure him, or ask him to explain matters he does not understand. Jonathan nodded. That is fair. Charles leaned forward. You cannot treat a resemblance and an old photograph as proof of anything. I did not say they were proof, Jonathan replied. I said I wanted to meet the boy. Charles folded his hands. This entire situation could have been arranged to provoke exactly this reaction. Jonathan turned toward him. Sarah is dead, Charles. Which means someone else made the arrangements. Her attorney did. Emily said. Helen Brooks escorted Owen to the gate. Charles's expression changed so quickly that another person might have missed it. Jonathan did not. You know Helen. Charles adjusted his cuff. I know the name. She represented Sarah after she left the company. You told me Sarah refused legal contact. That was what I was informed. Jonathan watched him for a moment, then looked back at Emily. Please ask Owen whether he is willing to meet me. Emily returned to row 14 with the lead flight attendant beside her. Owen sat exactly where she had left him, his backpack beneath the seat and his hands resting on the unopened envelope. When he noticed that Emily no longer held the photograph, concern crossed his face. Mr. Reed recognized your mother, she explained. He would like to speak with you, but you do not have to say yes. Owen looked toward first class. Will you stay? The entire time. Can I have the picture back first? Of course. Jonathan approached only after Emily returned the photograph to Owen. He stopped several feet from the boy's seat, as though an invisible line had been drawn across the aisle. Charles remained near the curtain, while the lead flight attendant stood nearby. Jonathan removed the broken wing pin from his watch strap and held it in his open palm. Your mother gave me this. Owen studied the small piece of metal. She said you might still have it. Jonathan's breath slowed. What else did she tell you about me? Only that you would be on this flight. She said I should show the photograph to a flight attendant and not come to you alone. The answer carried no accusation, which made it harder for Jonathan to hear. Sarah had not taught the boy to hate him. She had simply taught him to be careful. Did she tell you why she wanted us to meet? Owen shook his head. She said that part was for adults. Jonathan lowered himself into the empty seat across the aisle, leaving enough distance that Owen would not feel cornered. Did you know my mother well? I thought I did. Did you trust her? Jonathan looked at Sarah's faded face, the open maintenance panel behind her, and Charles standing in the background. Once he said, then I believed something I should have questioned. Owen tightened his fingers around the sleeve. My mom was not a bad person. No, Jonathan said, with certainty that arrived before the evidence. She was not. Owen's shoulders lowered slightly. Jonathan noticed Sarah's eyes, the faint mark near the boy's eyebrow, and the familiar way Owen pressed his lips together before asking another question. Why did she wait so long? Jonathan had no answer that belonged in a child's hands. I do not know, he said. Not yet. The cabin returned to its ordinary rhythm after Jonathan resumed his seat. Sunlight moved across the window, and the steady engine noise filled the space between first class and row 14. No alarms sounded, yet Jonathan felt as though the flight had changed direction. The broken wing pin rested in his palm, while the photograph remained with Owen, exactly where it belonged. Charles reopened his tablet, but the screen stayed unchanged. Jonathan watched him for a moment before speaking. You knew Helen Brooks represented Sarah. Charles kept his eyes forward. I knew she hired counsel after leaving the company. That is not what you told me 9 years ago. 9 years is a long time. Details become unclear. Jonathan leaned back. The details were clear when you placed Sarah's resignation letter on my desk. Charles lowered the tablet. You reviewed the evidence yourself. I reviewed what you gave me. The distinction settled between them. Charles folded his hands. You are allowing grief and resemblance to rewrite history. I have not rewritten anything. I have only decided to read the parts you left out. Across the cabin, Emily remained near Owen without hovering over him. She brought him a turkey sandwich, sliced apples, and fresh juice, then let him eat in peace with the photograph beside his tray. The unopened envelope stayed inside his backpack. Emily did not ask about it again. Sarah had left those words for Owen, and Owen would decide when he was ready to hear them. The lead flight attendant approached quietly. Ground services confirmed that Margaret Parker is the authorized adult meeting him in Boston. Please ask them to arrange a private room near the gate, Emily said, and contact Helen Brooks. Tell her Owen is safe and Jonathan Reed wishes to speak with her after landing. Nothing more. The lead attendant nodded and returned to the galley. Owen looked up. Will Aunt Margaret be there? Yes. She will meet you before anyone asks you to decide anything. Will Mr. Reed be there too? Only if you want him there. Owen touched the photograph. I think Mom wanted him there. Emily sat across the aisle. Your mother may have wanted the adults to speak, but you do not have to understand everything they say. Do you think he is my family? Emily chose her words carefully. That is not something I should decide for you. Owen looked toward first class. He looked sad. People sometimes look sad when they realize they misunderstood someone for a very long time. Near the front, Jonathan opened his leather folder and removed the acquisition announcement. The document suddenly felt distant and unimportant. He wrote one sentence across the first page: delay the announcement. Charles noticed. You cannot postpone a transaction because of a photograph. I am postponing it because I no longer trust the person sitting beside me. Charles's jaw tightened. Be careful, Jonathan. That sounds like a warning. It is advice. Jonathan folded the announcement. Your advice cost Sarah her name. I will not let it cost her son anything else. Charles looked toward the curtain. You do not know he is your son. No, Jonathan said. But you are more afraid that he might be than I am. Charles said nothing, and the silence answered more than denial. 30 minutes later, Flight 614 began its descent into Boston beneath a clear sky. Jonathan sat in first class with his folder closed. Charles held his tablet, but had stopped reading. Across the cabin, Owen remained in row 14 with the photograph inside its cloudy sleeve. Emily answered his questions about Aunt Margaret and what would happen after landing. She did not mention Charles, Sarah's engineering work, or the records Helen Brooks might hold. Those matters belonged to adults. Owen's only responsibility was to arrive safely and decide whether he wanted Jonathan in the room. Will everyone be waiting at the gate? He asked. Your aunt will be there, Emily said. A customer care supervisor will meet us, and Helen has been contacted. What about Mr. Reed? He will wait until your aunt gives permission. Owen nodded and returned his attention to the photograph. Jonathan watched the runway grow closer. Helen kept records, he said. Attorneys keep records. That proves nothing. You told me Sarah refused all contact after she left. That was the information available to me. Jonathan turned toward him. You were the information available to me. Charles's jaw tightened. Do not make accusations based on grief. I am not accusing you yet. Jonathan placed the broken wing pin on the table between them. I am telling you that I no longer accept your version of events as fact. Charles glanced toward the curtain. You are risking the acquisition and thousands of jobs because a child carried an old photograph onto an airplane. No, Jonathan said. I am delaying the announcement because the man who advised me for 9 years became nervous when Sarah's name returned. The landing gear lowered. Emily took her assigned jump seat, fastened her restraint, and gave Owen a reassuring nod. Every passenger remained seated. The wheels touched the runway smoothly, and Flight 614 moved toward the terminal. After the seatbelt sign switched off, Emily escorted Owen from the cabin before passengers. Margaret Parker waited at the end of the jet bridge beside Helen Brooks and a Reed Aviation customer care supervisor. Margaret hurried forward and wrapped Owen in both arms. Jonathan remained near the aircraft entrance until Margaret looked toward him. Owen followed her gaze. That is him, he whispered. Margaret did not release the boy. Helen stepped forward. Mr. Reed, I am Helen Brooks. Sarah left instructions for this meeting. Jonathan looked at the leather case. I will provide access to every company record you request. Charles appeared behind him. Jonathan, speak with corporate counsel before agreeing to anything. Helen turned toward Charles. Corporate counsel is why Sarah placed the records outside. The company. Charles stopped. Jonathan did not look back. Where can we speak privately? Helen gestured toward a conference room beyond the gate. The adults will speak first. Owen will remain with his aunt until he decides he is ready. Jonathan nodded. For the first time that day, someone had set a boundary he was grateful to obey. The private conference room beyond the gate was quiet enough for Jonathan to hear the ventilation system above the ceiling. Margaret remained outside with Owen and Emily while Helen Brooks closed the door behind Jonathan and Charles. She placed her leather case on the table, but did not open it immediately. Sarah left instructions, she said. These records can be released only if Jonathan agrees to open Reed Aviation's files to an independent investigation. Jonathan did not look at Charles. You have my agreement. Helen opened the case and removed several sealed folders. Inside were Sarah's original engineering report, supplier correspondence, access records, and letters she had written after leaving the company. Every letter had been addressed to Jonathan. None had reached him. Several had been returned through Charles's office. One folder contained a formal notice bearing Jonathan's copied signature and warning Sarah never to contact him again. Jonathan read the page twice. I never signed this. Charles remained near the wall. Documents passed through several departments during that period. Helen placed another record beside the notice. Every return letter was received by your office. Every response was authorized under your credentials. Charles kept his voice controlled. Sarah had already compromised confidential material. The company needed distance from her. She compromised nothing, Helen replied. The copied files were created after her access had been disabled. Jonathan turned toward Charles. You told me she stole them before resigning. I told you what the investigation showed. You controlled the investigation. Charles finally met his eyes. Reed Aviation was weeks from losing its financing. Sarah wanted to delay the program over a concern she could not prove. If the company had stopped, thousands of people would have lost their jobs. Jonathan set the false notice on the table. So you destroyed her name to protect mine. I protected the company. No, Jonathan said. You protected your decision. He removed his company access card and placed it beside the folders. Effective immediately, you are suspended from every duty at Reed Aviation. Your system access will be revoked before you leave this airport. Independent investigators will receive everything Helen requests. Charles stared at him. You are throwing away 9 years of trust. Jonathan looked at Sarah's unanswered letters. You threw them away first. Helen contacted airport security and Reed Aviation's legal team to escort Charles from the room without confrontation. Only after he had gone did Jonathan sit. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he asked the question he had avoided since seeing Owen. Why did Sarah send him now? Helen's expression softened. She became seriously ill last year. She wanted Owen to know where he came from, but she did not want him carrying accusations or records he could not understand. She arranged the flight because she knew you would be traveling to Boston. The photograph was enough to make you remember. The rest stayed with me. Did she ever tell him I was his father? Not directly. She left that in his personal letter. Outside, Owen sat between Margaret and Emily, holding the sealed envelope with both hands. When Helen returned, Margaret asked whether he wanted to open it. Owen nodded. Margaret broke the seal and read Sarah's words aloud. There were no engineering terms, company names, or accusations. Sarah wrote that Jonathan Reed was Owen's father and had never known she was pregnant. She explained that fear and false information had separated them before Owen was born. None of this is your responsibility, Margaret read. You do not have to forgive anyone, choose anyone, or understand what happened between adults. You only have to decide whether the man in the photograph makes you feel safe enough to know him. Owen looked toward the conference room door. Can he come in? Jonathan entered slowly and stopped several feet away. He did not reach for Owen or ask to see the letter. Owen studied his face. Are you my father? Jonathan's eyes filled, but his voice remained steady. I believe I am. We will confirm it properly, and every decision will be made with your aunt and with you. Owen moved his backpack aside, and Jonathan sat down, leaving the choice to him. 3 months later, Owen entered Reed Aviation's main hangar at Boston Logan International Airport beneath a clear, bright spring sky. He still lived with Aunt Margaret, and Jonathan had never once tried to challenge the arrangement or rush their relationship. The paternity test confirmed Sarah's letter, but Jonathan treated the result as responsibility, not ownership, entitlement, or sudden parental power. He attended counseling sessions, asked Margaret before making plans, and called Owen each evening without demanding an answer or explanation. Trust arrived slowly, through baseball games, science projects, lunches, and afternoons spent sorting Sarah's photographs together without judgment or haste. The independent investigation confirmed that Sarah had filed a valid engineering objection before Flight 127 and requested outside review immediately. Her report had been removed from the system under Charles Whitman's authority before anyone outside his office could examine it. Investigators found that confidential files were copied after Sarah's access was disabled, then falsely connected to her employee credentials afterward. The resignation letter Jonathan believed for years was forged, and the warning bearing his signature had also been manufactured deliberately. Charles's office had received Sarah's letters, logged them, and prevented every message from reaching Jonathan during those crucial early months. After the supplier reorganized under another name, Charles continued approving contracts without disclosing Sarah's unresolved safety concerns to the board. He had protected the decision that built his influence, even when protecting it required destroying the person who challenged him. His employment ended, and every relevant record went to investigators, regulators, legal counsel, and the appropriate public authorities without delay. Read. Aviation suspended the supplier relationship, opened its archives, and postponed the acquisition Jonathan once considered too important to delay. When advisors urged careful language that avoided responsibility, Jonathan refused to let reputation outrank the truth again publicly or privately. Sarah was not failed by one missing document, he told the board, but by repeated choices to prefer silence instead. That morning, employees, engineers, reporters, and former colleagues gathered inside the bright hangar beneath Sarah Parker's restored name at last. A white aircraft stood behind the stage, while sunlight moved across its polished surface and softened the steel around them. On the wall hung Sarah's faded photograph, preserved behind museum glass, but presented as a family memory, not secret evidence. Owen had carried no company records across the country, only the picture his mother wanted him to recognize one day. Every report, letter, and private document remained protected in Helen Brooks's office, where adult responsibilities had always belonged from beginning. Owen carried only what was truly his, Sarah's memory and the freedom to decide whether Jonathan deserved a place there. Reed Aviation announced the Sarah Parker Aviation Integrity Program, supporting independent review and protecting employees who raised safety concerns honestly. Jonathan invited Emily Carter to speak, and she walked toward the microphone without notes, ceremony, or visible pride at all. "I did not ask a child to explain an adult's secret," she said, because that burden never belonged to him. "I simply listened when he said his mother wanted him to find someone, and I believed that request mattered deeply." The hangar fell silent, not from fear, but from the recognition that listening had arrived many years too late already. After the ceremony, Owen stood beside Jonathan before the photograph, studying the younger faces preserved inside its faded edges quietly. "Do you notice things now?" Owen asked, touching the cloudy corner of the sleeve that had protected it for years. Jonathan looked toward Emily, Margaret, Helen, the gathered employees, and finally back to the son he was learning to. "No, I am learning," he said, understanding that honesty without patience could become another form of control over someone else again. Owen held out the broken wing pin, and Jonathan opened his hand, expecting the boy to return it to him permanently. Instead, Owen fastened it to Jonathan's jacket and told him quietly to keep learning what Sarah had tried teaching him. Later, they posed beneath the aircraft wing, with Margaret, Emily, and Helen standing close enough to share the frame together. The photograph had never been the burden. It was only the beginning, and truth finally found people willing to listen.